The night sky hung heavy over the cliffs, stars scattered like silver dust across the darkness. Waves crashed against jagged rocks far below, their roar echoing through the empty halls of the ancient palace. Elara stood at the threshold, her cloak brushing the cold stone floor, heart racing with a mix of fear and curiosity. The palace had long been abandoned, its grandeur faded into whispers and shadows. Legends spoke of powerful artifacts hidden inside, cursed objects that could grant unimaginable power or take it away. Among them, the most famous and the most feared was the Luna chair. Elara had not come seeking power. She was a scholar, a seeker of old stories and forgotten truths. Her hands were calloused from years of handling ancient manuscripts, and her eyes had grown accustomed to reading by candlelight. Yet tonight, something stronger than scholarly interest had drawn her here. The stories of the Luna chair whispered to her like a half-forgotten dream, promising revelation and danger all at once. The doors creaked as she pushed them open, revealing a hall bathed in moonlight. Dust motes floated lazily in the air, catching silver rays that filtered through cracks in the roof. At the far end of the room stood the Luna chair. It was carved from pale wood that shimmered faintly, as though alive under the moon's gaze. The armrests twisted like roots, curling into delicate patterns, and the back soared high, almost like a throne meant for a king. Yet there was a strange emptiness to it, as if it had been waiting for someone for centuries. Elara's breath caught in her throat. The chair seemed to pulse with a quiet heartbeat, subtle but undeniable. She took a hesitant step closer. Her hand brushed the smooth surface of the armrest, and a shiver ran through her. The air itself seemed to hum, resonating with her touch. "Curious," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Before she could think further, her knees bent almost instinctively, and she lowered herself into the Luna chair. The moment she made contact, the chair changed. It molded perfectly to her form, as if it had been waiting just for her. Soft warmth spread along her back, gentle but insistent, and a strange energy settled over her. Elara gasped, a mixture of awe and fear washing over her. The palace seemed to hold its breath. Shadows shifted across the walls, and the distant crash of waves softened into a quiet hush. It was then that she saw it, a faint glow spreading from the chair, surrounding her like moonlight captured in glass. Within the glow, visions flashed before her eyes, a kingdom lost to darkness, a prince betrayed by those he trusted most, and a love so deep it had survived centuries. Elara's heart pounded. She tried to rise, but the chair held her gently yet firmly. It was not pain, but a force that refused to release her. She felt herself connected to something ancient, something alive. She realized with a thrill that mingled with terror that the stories were true. The Luna chair did not merely seat someone, it chose them. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Elara's head snapped toward the sound, but the chair's glow intensified, and the intruders froze. A group of guards hired by treasure seekers approached the throne, eager to claim whatever power the chair might grant. Each one tried to sit, but the chair rejected them. A violent shudder ran through the wood, as if warning them away. One guard reached out to push her aside, and the chair lifted slightly beneath her, forcing him back. He stumbled, falling to the floor with a grunt, eyes wide with fear. Elara's pulse raced. The reality of her situation pressed down like a weight she had never known. She was alone, yet not entirely alone. Something was with her, inside her, and around her. Something alive. Then came the voice. It was soft, distant, and yet it filled the room like a ripple of wind. "At last, someone who can bear it." Elara froze. Her eyes darted around, but the hall remained empty, save for the shadows dancing along the walls. The voice came again, clearer this time, almost as if it were speaking directly into her mind. "Do not be afraid," it said. "I am bound to this place, bound to the chair, bound to you now." The words sent a shiver down her spine. "Bound to me?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Who are you?" A figure slowly materialized within the glow of the chair, faint and shimmering like mist caught in moonlight. He was tall, regal, and ethereal, with eyes that glowed like silver fire. His clothes were tattered, yet elegant, as though he had stepped out of a forgotten era. His gaze met hers, and in that moment Elara felt the pull of centuries, the weight of sorrow, betrayal, and longing. "I am Kale," he said, his voice both haunting and gentle. "I was a prince of this kingdom, cursed, bound, and forgotten, until now." Elara's breath caught. The stories she had read, the myths she had studied, they all spoke of a prince trapped in a cursed chair, waiting for a soul brave enough to sit and endure. And now she understood that she was that soul. Kale's presence was magnetic yet strange. She could feel him reaching toward her, though he was not entirely physical. The air around them seemed to vibrate with unspoken words, memories, and emotions that belonged to both of them and to centuries past. You're real?" Alara asked, voice barely more than a whisper. "In a way," Kale replied, his eyes never leaving hers. "The chair holds me, keeps me bound. You have awakened me, and now you carry my fate with yours." Fear and awe mingled in her chest. She wanted to step back to run, but the chair would not let her. Instead, it pulsed with gentle warmth, reassuring her. It was not a prison. Not yet, it was an invitation. "I don't understand," Alara admitted. "Why me? Why now?" Kale's gaze softened, though sadness lingered in his expression. "The chair chooses only those who can endure its truth. It sees your heart, your strength, your curiosity. It has waited for someone like you for centuries, someone who will not break under the weight of what it carries." Alara swallowed hard. She had never felt so small and yet so essential. She realized that the Luna chair was not just wood and carvings. It was memory, sorrow, hope, and power all entwined, and she had become part of it. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the broken windows. Inside, the palace seemed to breathe with her and Kale, alive in a way that defied logic. Shadows moved as if observing, listening, waiting. Will it let me leave?" she asked cautiously. Kale's gaze darkened slightly, but there was no cruelty in it. "It will let you leave when you are ready, but know this, the chair does not release what it has chosen lightly. It binds you to the truth of this place, to the fate of a kingdom lost, and to me." Alara's pulse quickened. She was bound, yes, but not helpless. She could feel the power thrumming beneath her, in the curves and lines of the chair, in the very air around her. She could feel Kale's presence, steady and patient, like the tide waiting to return to shore. And though fear gripped her heart, a strange exhilaration followed close behind. She was on the edge of something vast and unknowable, something that could change her life forever. Minutes, or perhaps hours, passed in silence, the only sound the soft hum of the chair and the distant crash of waves. Then, without warning, the chair's glow intensified. The pale wood shivered, and Kale's form solidified just a little more. He reached toward her, and for the first time she felt warmth from him, real and tangible, though he was not fully physical. Alara gasped, her fingers tightening on the armrests. "What is happening?" she whispered. "The chair awakens fully only when the chosen one is ready," Kale said, his voice low, resonant. "You have been chosen, and now you are part of this." A surge of wind rattled the hall, carrying the scent of the sea and something else, something ancient and powerful. The chair pulsed once, twice, like a heartbeat. Alara's vision blurred for a moment, and in that instant she saw more. Glimpses of the palace as it had been, filled with life and laughter. Glimpses of Kale's reign, the love and betrayal that had cursed him, and a future that seemed both impossible and necessary. Her heart raced. The world felt larger, more dangerous, and infinitely more beautiful than she had ever imagined. The glow faded slightly, leaving only a soft shimmer around the chair and Kale. He stepped closer, his figure flickering like silver flame. "Do not be afraid," he whispered again. "I am bound to you now as you are to me. The journey begins tonight." Alara swallowed hard, her fingers still gripping the armrests. Her mind raced with questions, with fear, with wonder. And yet, deep inside, she felt a strange certainty. She had stumbled into something extraordinary, something that would change her forever. The Luna chair had chosen her, and she could not turn back. Above, the moon reached its zenith, casting a silver glow over the cliffs and the palace. The waves crashed below, a reminder of the vastness of the world outside, and the palace seemed to sigh, alive with anticipation. Alara's eyes met Kale's, and in that gaze she understood. The story of the Luna chair, the prince, and the lost kingdom was only beginning. And somewhere, deep within the shadows of the palace, the echoes of history waited to see what she would do next. The moonlight stretched long shadows across the palace floor, painting the walls in silver and black. Alara sat in the Luna chair, still trembling from the events of the previous night. The chair had not released her, and neither had the mysterious prince who now hovered like a living ghost at her side. Kale's form shimmered softly, his presence both comforting and unsettling. Alara's fingers brushed the carved armrests, and she felt the faint pulse of the chair beneath her. It was no ordinary furniture. It was alive, aware, and patient. She could sense Kale in every curve, every detail, as if the chair itself were a part of him. "You must understand," Kale said, his voice echoing softly in the hall. "This chair is more than wood and magic. It is my prison, and now it has chosen you to share in it." Alara looked at him, heart pounding. I don't know if I can," she whispered. "I don't know if I want to." Kale stepped closer, though he could not touch her fully. "I will not force you," he said. "But you must know this chair does not release easily. Once it has chosen, it waits for understanding and courage." Alara closed her eyes, letting the quiet settle over her. She remembered the visions the chair had shown her, the kingdom lost to shadows, the prince betrayed by his own kin, and a love that had endured centuries. It was overwhelming, but it also felt necessary. She opened her eyes and asked, "Why me? Why now?" Kale's gaze softened, though a sadness lingered in his silver eyes. "The chair does not choose lightly. It sees the heart, the courage, and the curiosity of those who sit. You are not afraid to seek truth, even when it terrifies you. That is why it has chosen you." Alara swallowed hard. Her mind spun with possibilities, fears, and strange excitement. She was bound to something ancient, something beyond her understanding. Yet she could feel herself growing stronger, more aware, as if the chair itself were awakening her hidden senses. For the first time, Kale stepped fully into the space near her. His presence was tangible now, pressing against her senses. She could feel his sadness, his longing, and the weight of his years of isolation. And though she could not touch him, she felt a strange warmth in the space between them. "You must learn," Kale said, his voice low and soft, "that our fates are linked. What affects one affects the other. The chair binds us together and we cannot escape it." Alara nodded slowly. She wanted to step away, to reclaim her independence, but something in her heart would not let her. She had been chosen, yes, but she had also chosen to see this through, to understand, to be part of something larger than herself. As the night deepened, Kale began to show her the chair's power. Through shared visions, he revealed fragments of his past. A kingdom full of life and laughter, the betrayal of trusted allies, the shadow that had consumed his family, and the love he had once shared with a woman who had been lost to time. Each memory was vivid, haunting, and heartbreaking. Alara felt herself drawn into his life, feeling his pain and hope as if it were her own. "You feel it, don't you?" Kale asked softly. "The weight of what I endured, the loneliness, the sorrow." Alara nodded, tears prickling at her eyes. "I feel it, but I also feel something else. A part of me wants to help, to be here with you, even if it is dangerous." Kale's eyes brightened slightly, and a faint smile touched his lips. That is what the chair recognized. Not just courage, but compassion. Not just endurance, but a willingness to bear the burden alongside me. Hours passed, and the palace seemed to breathe around them. Shadows moved, curling along walls and floors as if alive. Alara felt both exhilarated and terrified. She was bound to a mystery far older than she could imagine, and yet she felt as if she belonged here in this strange, moonlit throne room. As days turned to nights, Alara learned more about the bond the chair created. It was not simply a connection of space, it was a connection of soul. Through it, she could sense Kale's thoughts, emotions, and even his desires, and though she struggled with fear and uncertainty, she began to feel a quiet trust growing between them. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of crimson and violet, Kale shared a secret with her. "The chair," he said, his voice almost a whisper, "does more than bind. It can also grant insight, even power, to those it chooses. But it tests the heart. If the heart falters, it will reject you. If it is steadfast, it can awaken strength you never knew you had." Alara's mind raced. She had felt small, fragile, and uncertain before sitting in the chair. Now she could feel a subtle strength rising within her, like a tide beneath her skin. It was not the chair controlling her, it was a partnership, a merging of purpose. But even as she marveled at this new awareness, fear lingered. The chair demanded loyalty, understanding, and courage. And Kale was both a comfort and a reminder of the danger they faced. He could manifest partially, yes, but he was still bound to the chair, limited in ways she could not yet grasp. One night, curiosity overcame caution. Alara reached out toward him, her fingers trembling. The moment they brushed the edge of his form, a spark ran through her, not painful but startling. She gasped and pulled back. "You are testing the limits," Kale said gently. "Be careful. The chair will not tolerate recklessness, but your connection with me grows stronger every day. That is why the bond feels so real." Alara nodded, though her heart raced with both fear and fascination. The bond was changing her, awakening something she could not yet name. And Kale, his presence was no longer simply haunting or distant. It was vital, like the moonlight filling the room, like the pulse of life itself. Days passed. Kale taught her how to feel the chair's energy, how to sense the palace, and how to glimpse fragments of the past through its whispers. They began to communicate in silence, sharing thoughts, emotions, and even fleeting visions. The bond between them deepened, becoming something fragile, tender, and impossible to ignore. And yet danger lingered. Shadows began to stir beyond the throne room. Elara sensed the remnants of the curse, ancient powers, and lost spirits drawn to the Luna chair's energy. They were watching, waiting for a moment of weakness, and the palace seemed alive with anticipation. One evening, as the wind howled through broken windows, Elara tried to leave the chair. She rose slowly, heart pounding. But the chair pulsed beneath her, a subtle yet firm reminder she could not leave. Panic and fear surged through her, but Kale's voice cut through the chaos. "Do not fight it," he whispered, calm and steady. "The chair will not harm you. It binds, yes, but it also protects. You are part of this now, and I am part of you." Elara sank back into the seat, trembling. She realized fully that she had crossed a threshold. There was no turning back. The chair had chosen her, the prince had awakened, and her life was now entwined with a story far older and more dangerous than she could have imagined. And yet, a thrill of something extraordinary ran through her. The fear, the mystery, the growing bond with Kale, it all stirred something deep within her, a mix of courage, longing, and determination. She could feel the pull of destiny, subtle yet undeniable, guiding her toward a path she could not yet see, but could sense in every heartbeat. Then, as the moon reached its highest point, the chair glimmered brighter than ever. Kale's form solidified, and he reached out toward her, not fully physical but more real than before. "Elara," he said, his voice low and intense, "the curse is not yet broken. Shadows linger. The bond between us grows stronger. And soon, the world beyond this palace will seek what the chair holds. You must be ready. I must be ready, together." Elara's breath caught. The journey ahead was uncertain, dangerous, and filled with challenges she could not yet imagine. But for the first time, she felt truly alive, truly connected to something greater than herself. The Luna chair had chosen her, and Kale had awakened. The palace seemed to shiver with anticipation, as if aware that their story had only just begun. And in the shadows beyond, distant and unseen, whispers of the past stirred, hinting that the world outside would soon intrude, testing both courage and heart. Elara gripped the armrests, feeling the pulse of the chair beneath her. She looked at Kale, at his shimmering form, and whispered, "I am ready. Whatever comes next, I will not turn away." Kale's gaze softened, and a faint smile appeared. "Then we begin," he said, together. The Luna chair pulsed once more, faintly glowing, as if acknowledging their resolve. And far beyond the palace, in the shadows that lingered among the cliffs, something ancient stirred, watching, waiting, and preparing for the story that had only just begun. End of Part 2, Cliffhanger. The shadows had come. The palace was no longer silent. Shadows moved along the walls, whispering in voices that belonged to long-forgotten times. Elara's heart raced as she sat in the Luna chair, its pale wood now warm and alive beneath her fingers. Kale hovered near her, his silver eyes bright with tension, his ethereal form more solid than it had ever been. "They are close," Kale whispered, his voice tight. "The ones who destroyed my kingdom, they still linger, drawn to the chair's power." Elara's eyes darted to the edges of the hall where dark shapes shifted like smoke. Her pulse quickened. "What do they want?" she asked. "Power," Kale replied, his gaze fixed on the shadows. "And revenge. The chair holds more than my soul. It holds the memories of the past, the strength of the throne, and the hope of what might still be. They will stop at nothing to take it." Elara shivered, realizing for the first time that their bond was not just a matter of choice. It was a target. The chair had awakened something beyond the walls of the palace, something dangerous and relentless. Over the next days, Kale began to guide her through the deeper powers of the Luna chair. Through the bond, she could feel the palace itself, the whispers of the walls, the heartbeat of the stone floors, and the faint echoes of lives that had once filled these halls. The chair's magic responded to her, shifting the room subtly, creating small shields and channels of energy that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heart. "You are learning quickly," Kale said one evening, as the sun dipped behind the cliffs and the sky burned with shades of crimson and gold. "But do not underestimate the cost. Every ability the chair gives requires focus, trust, and restraint. Alara nodded. She could feel the bond growing, a thread of connection that tied her life to Kale's. And yet every time she reached toward him, every time her thoughts brushed against his, there was a flicker of danger, an awareness that their closeness could provoke forces beyond their control. "I feel it," she said softly, almost to herself. "A part of me wants to be closer to you, but I am afraid." Kale's silver eyes softened. "Fear is natural," he replied, "but it is also the sign that you care. The bond between us is more than the chair. It is trust, understanding, and something stronger. Something forbidden, perhaps, because it is not simple. It is not meant to exist without danger." Alara swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his words. She had never imagined a connection like this. It was not mere attraction. It was a merging of fate, a union of souls, bound by magic older than any kingdom she had studied. And with that knowledge came both exhilaration and fear. The shadows outside the throne room grew bolder. One night, a low hum filled the air as figures emerged from the corners of the palace, spectral echoes of Kale's enemies, remnants of betrayal and greed. They moved silently but with intent, circling the hall as if sensing the bond between Alara and Kale. "They have come," Kale said, his form flickering. "You must remain calm. The chair will protect you, but we must be cautious. Any misstep could strengthen them instead of us." Alara gripped the armrests of the chair, feeling the energy pulse beneath her. She focused on the bond, letting it strengthen her resolve. She could sense Kale's presence intertwining with hers, a protective thread that made her braver than she had ever felt. The intruders drew closer, and the palace itself seemed to respond. The shadows recoiled when Alara concentrated, the floor beneath them vibrating with energy. She realized that she could influence the power of the chair, that her bond with Kale was no longer passive. She was part of the magic, part of the defense. "It works," she whispered, awe and fear mingling in her voice. Kale smiled faintly, though his eyes remained vigilant. "You are ready for more, but it is dangerous. There is a ritual, one that can break the curse fully. But it is not simple, and it requires complete trust and courage beyond measure." Alara's heart skipped. "A ritual?" she asked. "What does it require?" "The ritual," Kale said, stepping closer, "binds our souls together through the chair. It can awaken the full power of the Luna chair, but if we falter, one of us could be lost, and the shadows outside, they will seize any weakness." Alara felt a chill. She had already risked so much simply by sitting in the chair. And now the ritual would demand even more, the merging of their lives, their fates, and their hearts. The thought terrified her, yet a small, bright spark of determination flared within her. I want to try," she said softly. "Even if it is dangerous, I want to help you." Kale's eyes softened, and for a moment his spectral form was radiant with emotion. "Then we do it together," he said. "But you must listen to me, every step, every breath, every thought. We cannot falter." The night of the ritual arrived. Moonlight poured through the broken windows, casting the hall in silver and shadow. Alara sat in the chair, her fingers tracing the intricate carvings. Kale appeared beside her, more solid now, his form glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Focus," Kale whispered. "We begin with the bond. Feel it, trust it, let it flow between us." Alara closed her eyes and reached into the energy that connected them. She felt Kale's essence, his strength, his sorrow, his hope, intertwining with hers. A warmth spread from the chair through her body, and a gentle hum filled the air, vibrating through the palace. At first, everything was calm, but then a shadow moved at the edge of her vision. One of Kale's enemies, a specter of betrayal from long ago, had found a way into the hall. The energy around them flared violently as it sensed the intruder. "Alara," Kale shouted, reaching toward her. "Do not let it distract you." Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to focus, letting the bond with Kale guide her. The chair pulsed in response, sending waves of energy that pushed the shadow back. Kale's form solidified further, and together they created a circle of light that repelled the intruder. The ritual continued, more powerful than before. Alara could feel her own soul intertwining with Kale's, a connection that was deeper than thought or memory. And though danger lingered outside, inside the hall there was a sense of calm, a quiet strength that came from trust, courage, and shared purpose. As the ritual reached its peak, the chair glowed with a blinding light. Alara felt herself floating, suspended between fear and exhilaration. She opened her eyes and saw Kale, fully solid now, standing before her. For the first time, she could reach out and touch him. Their fingers brushed, and a surge of warmth and power ran through her. "It is working," Kale whispered, awe in his voice. "The bond, it is real, stronger than I ever imagined." Alara smiled, a mixture of relief and wonder. "We did it together." But even as the light faded and the hall returned to its silver glow, a new shadow appeared at the edge of the room. Darker, larger, more dangerous than before. It moved with purpose, its form shifting and twisting in the moonlight. Kale stiffened, his eyes narrowing. "They are coming," he said, his voice tight with warning. "And this one is not like the others." Alara gripped the armrests of the chair, feeling the bond between them thrumming with energy. Fear and determination mingled in her chest. She realized fully that the world beyond the palace was not finished with them. Their union, their bond, had awakened something powerful and something dangerous. The shadow advanced, and the palace seemed to shiver with anticipation. Alara and Kale stood together, bound by the Luna chair, ready to face whatever came next. The bond they shared was both their strength and their vulnerability, and the coming battle would test every ounce of courage and trust they had built. "Alara," Kale said, his hand brushing hers lightly, "we face this together. Whatever happens, do not falter. Trust me, trust us." Alara nodded, heart racing, soul trembling, but filled with resolve. "I trust you," she said. "Always." The shadow surged forward, and the chair pulsed violently, bathing the hall in silver light. Alara felt Kale's presence surge through her, merging with her own energy, and a wave of power swept across the room, pushing back the darkness. The intruder shrieked, twisting and fading into the walls, but Alara knew this was only the beginning. The shadows beyond the palace, the remnants of Kale's lost kingdom, and the unseen powers stirred by the Luna chair were not finished. And as she sat there, connected to Kale, bound to the chair and part of something greater than herself, she understood one thing clearly. Their union, forbidden though it might seem, was not a weakness. It was their strength. The first light of dawn filtered through the shattered windows of the palace, turning the dust-filled air into streams of gold. The silence was fragile, almost hesitant, as if the world itself held its breath. Alara sat in the Luna chair, her fingers tracing the smooth carvings, still feeling the bond that connected her to Kale. He stood beside her now, fully solid, his silver eyes steady and calm despite the lingering shadows at the edges of the hall. "The drumming has stopped," Alara whispered, her voice barely above the sound of her own heartbeat. "For now." Kale's gaze swept over the palace, sharp and alert. "Yes, for now, but the danger has only begun. The shadows we saw, they are only fragments of what lies beyond these walls. The curse, the betrayal, the enemies of my past, they will not rest until they reclaim what the chair holds." Alara nodded. The weight of their journey pressed against her chest, but she had never felt stronger, never more certain. The bond with Kale had grown, deeper than she could have imagined. She could feel his thoughts, his fears, his hopes intertwined with her own. And through it all, a quiet determination had taken root inside her. She would not falter. She would face whatever came next. Kale stepped closer, resting a hand near hers without touching fully. "The ritual strengthened our connection, but the chair still tests us. To break the curse, we must confront the shadows together, and you must decide what you are willing to give." Alara's heart skipped. She had sensed this moment coming, yet the reality of it struck her with sharp clarity. The Luna chair was no longer just a throne. It was a bridge, a test, and a key to something far greater, and now the choice was hers. "I will face it," she said finally, her voice steady. "I am ready," Kale nodded, and for the first time a faint smile touched his lips. "Then let us begin together." The shadows stirred once more, coiling and twisting at the edges of the hall. They were darker now, larger, as if fueled by centuries of malice and unfulfilled vengeance. The walls of the palace shivered under their presence, and the Luna chair pulsed in response, sending waves of energy through Alara's body. She felt herself rising with the power of the chair, her mind and soul intertwined with Kale's. "Focus," Kale whispered, his voice a calm anchor amid the growing tension. "We must bind them or they will consume everything." Alara closed her eyes, reaching into the bond. She could feel Kale's strength, the memories of his life, the sorrow of his lost kingdom, and the pulse of the chair. She let it all flow through her, guiding her movements and thoughts. The shadows writhed, sensing resistance, and surged forward with whispers of anger and despair. But Alara did not falter. She felt the chair respond, its energy expanding, shaping light and warmth into protective waves. Kale stepped fully into the circle of light, his form solid and commanding. Together they pushed the shadows back, the hall glowing with the power of their unity. The largest shadow, the one that had seemed more powerful than the rest, detached itself from the edges of the room. It moved with intent, coiling toward them like a serpent. Alara's hands trembled, but Kale's gaze met hers, steady and reassuring. "You are not alone," he said softly. "Remember the bond, trust it, trust us." Taking a deep breath, Alara focused entirely on the connection between them. She felt the chair's energy surge, linking their thoughts, their courage, their hearts. And then, with a sudden, brilliant pulse, the shadows were drawn toward the center of the hall, captured in a sphere of light that shimmered like moonlight on water. The largest shadow shrieked, twisting and writhing, but it could not escape. The bond between Alara and Kale held firm, unbreakable. The palace trembled, dust falling from the ceilings, but the circle of light remained, steadfast and bright. Alara opened her eyes and saw Kale standing fully before her, no longer ethereal but completely real. The bond had awakened his form, freed him in a way he had not known possible. For the first time in centuries, he was whole. "We did it," she whispered, awe in her voice. Kale smiled, a mixture of relief and wonder. "Yes, together." But even as they shared that moment of triumph, the Luna chair pulsed one final time. A soft, golden light radiated from its carved frame, and Alara felt a gentle pull, a choice presented to her. She understood instantly. The chair had given them strength, but it had also created a path, a decision that would define their future. She could leave, stepping away from the bond, releasing herself from the chair. Kale would remain free in the physical world, and she would reclaim her independence. Or she could stay, merging fully with the chair, sharing her life and spirit with Kale completely, ensuring that his curse was broken and that their story continued together. Alara's heart ached with the weight of the choice. Fear pressed against her chest, but it was intertwined with hope and longing. She looked at Kale, who met her gaze with unwavering trust. She began, her voice trembling, "I do not want to leave you, not now, not ever." Kale's eyes softened, and he reached toward her, hand brushing hers lightly. "Then choose," he whispered. "Whatever you decide, I will follow you together." Alara closed her eyes, letting the bond guide her. She felt the energy of the chair, the strength of Kale, and the pulse of the palace itself. And then, with a deep breath, she made her choice. She leaned into the Luna chair, letting it mold completely to her form. She could feel her essence merging with its wood, its magic, and Kale's soul. The chair pulsed, radiant and warm, acknowledging the union. And as she did, Kale's hand rested fully on hers, his presence solid and real, no longer a shadow or a memory, but a living part of her world. The palace seemed to sigh, a long, soft exhale that shook dust from the rafters. The shadows that had lingered, remnants of betrayal and malice, dissolved in the light of their combined power. The curse that had bound Kale for centuries unraveled, leaving only freedom, strength, and love. Alara opened her eyes and saw Kale smiling at her, a mix of joy, relief, and awe. You chose," he whispered. "You chose to be part of this with me." "I chose us," she said softly. "We are stronger together, always." The palace was quiet now, peaceful in a way it had not been for centuries. Moonlight and the first rays of dawn mingled, casting silver and gold across the throne room. The Luna chair sat at the center, no longer a prison but a symbol, a bridge of trust, courage, and love. Kale took her hand fully in his now, the warmth and solidity of life between them undeniable. "The kingdom may be gone," he said, his voice steady, "but our story is just beginning. We have the power to shape what comes next." Alara nodded, feeling the truth of his words in every pulse of the chair and every beat of her heart. She had faced fear, embraced the unknown, and chosen to trust in love, courage, and destiny. And in doing so, she had transformed not only herself but Kale, the Luna chair, and the legacy of the past. But even as they stood together, bathed in the golden light of morning, a distant sound stirred in the cliffs beyond the palace. A faint, rhythmic pulse, like the heartbeat of something vast and ancient. Alara and Kale exchanged a glance, knowing that their union had awakened not just freedom, but a new challenge, a new adventure. Kale's grip tightened gently on her hand. "Whatever comes, we face it together," he said, his voice filled with quiet determination. Alara smiled, feeling the pulse of the Luna chair beneath her, the bond that connected her to Kale, and the power that flowed from their unity. "Together," she echoed. And as they looked out over the cliffs, the silver sea stretching endlessly below, the palace standing as a testament to courage, love, and redemption. They knew one truth. The shadows of the past had been faced, the curse had been broken, and a story of hope. Strength and intertwined destinies was beginning. The wind stirred, carrying the scent of the sea and the faint echo of ancient whispers. The Luna chair pulsed softly, a reminder that magic, love, and courage were forever intertwined. And far beyond the palace, the world waited, full of possibilities, challenges, and wonders yet to be discovered. Alara and Kale stood together, hands clasped, hearts united, ready to face whatever the future held. For in each other they had found not just companionship, but strength, redemption, and the promise of a love that could endure even the darkest of nights. End of Part 4, Final Cliffhanger Epilogue Hook. "The world may never rest," he said softly. Alara nodded, eyes shining. "Then neither will we, together." And together, bound by the Luna chair, their souls intertwined, they stepped forward into the dawn, ready to meet destiny head-on.